Yes, it is Monday night. The Rewind crew are back and week 10 is done. We have another amazing guest, but first, let's play the video.
I just want to rewind to when we were young at heart. Back to all those good times. Take me back to the start.
I'm so happy. It is a Monday night. We have Rewind royalty on the show tonight, and Mum is away. The boys will play, and we thought, why not? Let's bring another idiot into the show to join us on a Monday night, you know? But first of all, go to my co-host, Lewis. How are you doing on this fine Monday night?
I am absolutely buzzing, Paul. It's absolutely fantastic time to be alive. The Rams are playing tonight. I'm going to stay up till 4 a.m. Yesterday was great. The late window was weird, but I am buzzing for the show today with our guest and buzzing for what tonight is going to bring.
What's even better, Lewis, is you said that and your picture didn't even move from what I've got on StreamYard. And it just looked like you're a ventriloquist, mate, and you just spoke through your teeth, which is amazing. But yes, I did tee it up. We do have Wildcard Rewind royalty on the show. We have got Mags back with us. Mags, yes. How are you doing, mate?
It is fantastic to be back right here on the Fantasy Wildcard Rewind. Where it all begun, Paul. I mean, the Podfather a few years ago, Kev reached out and said, I've got a show. I've got a co-host for you. I've got another co-host for you. Mentioned your name, and the rest is history, Paul. We built this Wildcard Rewind up from the ground, and it's great to see what you and Lewis and Hannah have done since my departure, only making the show even better. So it's brilliant to be back on as a guest. Less pressure this time as well. I'm just going to go completely off show sheet and try and mess up your time as much as possible.
Max, there's two things I want to bring up about this. You know we never stick to the show sheet. You know we always make up and net up with the times and everything. You know this because you were the one that used to lead us down the dark paths, you know? But true. I will say, you said it was amazing. Kev messaged you. I've got a co-host. I set up this podcast, everything like this. And then you dumped us because you went to the other one, didn't you? You cheated on us with our sister.
He made me an offer I couldn't refuse. There's a horse's head in my bed. I couldn't say no.
But no, it's amazing to have you back on with us, Mags. You know we love you over here. We love what you're doing with the Dynasty boys. And you're just crushing it everywhere. But let's get into some big news, but there really isn't much big news to chat about. There was not many major injuries. A few QBs that we'll probably chat about in a little bit, and we will bring that up. But first of all, guys, I want to remind you that we are still suffering from bye weeks this week. We've got the mighty Arizona Cardinals, the pathetic Panthers, the bottle job Bucks, and I'm trying to think of one for the Giants now. The
Giants is. I think Giants is bad enough, isn't it? Right, just the Giants.
Yeah.
The Daniel Jones quarterbacked Giants.
Yeah.
But do you know what, guys? I said we might bring it up. Let's have a little chat about this now. So there's a lot of QBs in this league that I think could do with being benched. Okay, Daniel Jones being one of them. I know he had a rushing touchdown this week, and that did probably save him. But what do you guys make of that sort of New York Giants sort of room? Do you think they need to bench Daniel Jones? Do you think they've got a better option because they're obviously paying him a lot of money? Do you know what would you do? Say I've just employed you as the head coach of the New York Giants team. You've got absolutely nothing to play for this year. You don't give a shit about anyone's fantasy teams. What are you doing at QB? Do you leave Daniel Jones running the show, or do you bench him?
Well, to start with, I last Thursday My brother is the assistant head coach of the Bristol University American football team called the Bristol Barracuda, and I went down to help out with one of their sessions. And so I think that experience of helping coach those offensive players is pretty much exactly the same of what it would be like to coach Daniel Jones with the level that he's playing at the minute. In fact, I actually think Danny, the quarterback of the Bristol Cuda, might be playing at a higher level from seeing how quick his release was. To me, it's a lost season. I don't really see the point in, because you're not going to suddenly turn around and go, actually, Daniel Jones has been playing all right. Maybe he will be the future. That's kind of what got them into this mess in the first place, is that they saw Daniel Jones play quite well in that season a couple of years ago when they knocked the Vikings out of the playoffs and decided to give him a $40 million 3-year deal. So you're not going to play him and suddenly go, yeah, this is working. It's not a case of, like the Cowboys with Trey Lance, that you might see what you have in case you have something. If the Giants played Drew Lock and went, oh, we've got something there, that's also bad process. Like, the answer is not to try and take a punt on one of these existing veteran quarterbacks that we know is bad. The answer is to try and go have as bad a season as possible, to get as high a pick as possible, to get a new quarterback for next year. The only reason that I would consider benching Daniel Jones for Drew Lock is if you think it will be helpful for Malik Neighbors' development, if you think he's a more accurate quarterback. Now, I don't know that I think that he is. I think Drew Lock is also pretty terrible. But the only reason why the main thing for me making the decision of who to play at quarterback, it doesn't matter. The season's over. You're tanking for whether it's, Shador or Cam Ward or whoever you have as your QB1 in the upcoming draft. That's your next plan. The rest of your season needs to be about keeping Malik Neighbors healthy and helping him develop, because he is a potential superstar. If you think Drew Lock is the way to do that, play him. If you think Daniel Jones is the way to do that, play him. If you think signing Ryan Tannehill for the vet minimum and playing him for the rest of the season, do that and play him. Like, I don't think, to me, it really matters whether they bench him or not, because it doesn't really matter whether or not they win any more games.
If anything, winning games is probably the wrong thing for them to do now. I remember people saying that about the Panthers like last season. They're at the point now where winning games is, yes, okay, it gives the fans something to cheer about or something like that, but actually, if they lose all their games, they get a better pick in the draft next year. Mags, I've got a question for you, mate. Who would you rather, up to this point in the season, as your QB1 in your team? Daniel Jones, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, or Caleb Williams? Who would you rather have had in your team?
Daniel Jones, Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams, or who was the other one?
Jordan Love.
Well, Love's missed time, hasn't he? All right, so that's a big issue. Love's missed a bit of time. I think points per game, Jordan Love, I would imagine, up there. I'm a big Justin Herbert guy. I've got a little... You can see the figurine of Justin Herbert behind me here. I think Justin Herbert is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league. Give me Justin Herbert.
So currently, Justin Herbert has scored 134.3 points this season. Daniel Jones has scored 142.
Wow. So Russian, isn't it? Although Justin Herbert's showing the wheels this weekend. I like that. It's
great to see.
It's just made me laugh. So currently, I know this is not points per game. This is overall. He's QB 18 overall in the season. Daniel Jones. Yeah.
Well, it's the fantasy thing, though, isn't it? It's like, if you remember, Justin Fields was like quarterback 2 overall, but we kept banging the drum, being like, he's going to be replaced because he's not winning games. Like, Brian Dable is not like, unless Brian Dable has 100% exposure to Daniel Jones in his fantasy teams, he's a great QB2 for him. Like, that's probably not reason for him to keep starting him there, right? Or whoever owns the New York Giants. And I think sometimes we get confused a little bit with that as well, where it's like the whole point for the Giants now is to tank it and not, like, that's what we would do if we were playing a dynasty team, for example. But Dable could lose his job if he doesn't start winning games, unless he's got specific reassurance, and it's illegal, right? I think the Dolphins got in trouble for this, right? It is illegal to say, go out there and lose some games. There was huge issues with, did the Eagles do that one year when they took out Jalen Hurts? So there's huge issues with doing that. So it's kind of it's a more intricate issue than it is like just with your fantasy teams, I think. So I think they will go out and try and win as many games as possible. Can we please hit the big Tommy DeVito button, please? Please. I want to see it again. I miss Zichin.
I forgot he existed.
I love him. I think he's brilliant. I want to see him.
How can you forget about Danny DeVito's older brother? Come on.
Yeah, he's 3-3.
Come on.
He's got a 3-3 record for the Giants. Not bad.
Yeah, but we did spend a lot of yesterday talking about the fact that Cooper Rush had a 4-0 record with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Like, I think sometimes when we talk about wins not being a QB stat, we normally talk about the other way, about like a team can be losing and it not be down to the quarterback. This is the other way around. Like the fact that he won 3 games has nothing to do with him being any good.
That's probably very true.
With you mentioning Cooper Rush, who do you think is the better starter for the Cowboys? Because Cooper Rush didn't have a good time yesterday. He looked awful. Do you think it's? I don't want to say his name, but do you think maybe they give Trey Lance a bit of a run?
Why
do you
not?
think that's worth having a go, Mags? What? Go on.
Yeah.
Do you think he's worth it?
I think why not? Like Cooper Rush kind of showed you what Cooper Rush is. Trey Lance. I mean, you brought him on for a reason. Right, you didn't bring in Trey Lance. They traded for Trey Lance, if I'm right. He wasn't cut. Like, they actually traded for him. Like, surely he's had enough time now to sit and try and learn and at least go in and try and run this offense a little bit. Like, Cooper Rush kind of showed that he's not really going to be able to. Trey Lance is closer to a Dak type of player, so you'd think they should be able to run the system. Although it is funny to hear Cooper Rush say, "Here we go." That's hilarious. I wonder if Trey Lance will do the same. So I think, just give him a shot. Why not? Is there any prognosis on Dak? Has he been official how long he's going to be out for?
I know he's gone on to IR, hasn't he? So it's at least 4 weeks.
I think it's probably the same for Dak and Trevor Lawrence, that like if the team was in a playoff push, they could come back for like week 14, 15, but they won't because they aren't. For me, like, it's not just that they traded for Trey Lance. They traded a 4th for Trey Lance. Like, their 4th round picks 2 years in a row are Trey Lance and Jonathan Mingo. And I know draft capital stays in the NFL, right? Like, you still have players who were first round picks a few years ago who were complete bust getting spots on rosters because teams scouted them. They liked what they saw back then. And that seems to have been what it was for Jonathan Mingo. Like, I don't hate it. Cooper Rush might have the weakest arm of any quarterback I've played in the NFL. He cannot make NFL throws. I think if it was a smarter offensive mind, I think you can coach around Trey Lance, and I think you can make that work with the athleticism and with the deep threat. If the offensive line was better, if the running game was better, I'd say give it a go. It's one of those where I don't even see the point in debating it, because like they're gonna stick with Cooper Rush and they're gonna stay running the same stale offense they've been running all season, and Jerry Jones complaining, we know where the sun's gonna be. Like the team are in absolute free fall, and it's quite fun to see, but like I can't see them changing anything.
So something I love here, I'm on Fantasy Pros and looking at the QB finishes of the week. Cooper Rush finished as a QB 31 this week, and he had 4 teams on bye. Okay, so okay, and two people that finished above him were Clayton Tune and Mitch Trubisky, who finished on minus 0.1, and Cooper Rush finished on -2. He was their starting QB, like, you know what I mean? So I just think.
Actually, if all 3 of us declare as NFL quarterbacks right now, we can push him down 3 more places because we all scored 0. So we can just keep pushing him down, right?
Felipe Franks, QB for the Carolina Panthers, scored 0 points and finished above all of them. You know, Kenny Pickett got 0.3. So that just goes to show. Is there any other QBs you guys want to mention before we sort of get on to another thing that I want to chat about?
Yeah, can the referees please tell Patrick Mahomes whenever the people are trying to rush him, right? Can we please get that out the way and get that solidified? Because that's unfair on the Chiefs that defenders were trying to tackle him without any warning.
Max, so I have a question about that. Do you think that the refs are helping the Chiefs win?
I think winners win, Paul. I think winners win.
That's not what you said before we came on here, mate. That's not what you said before we came on here. You were telling us how the refs are helping. There
might have been one illegal contact call in this game that was like, that's complete nonsense. Just
do you know
one,
what,
just one instance.
what I love about it? What I love about it is all the memes at the moment that I see online and stuff are all like people just.
It's always the guy in the stripy
AI
chief
things.
ref top. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's always they're like, all hail Pat Mahomes. That's they haven't even got the ball and stuff like this. But my favorite, did you see that kid that dressed up for Halloween as Pat Mahomes and his dad dressed up as a ref? He went and gave his dad some money and walked away and stuff like this. And I was just there like, you guys have won Halloween.
Nailed it.
Won it.
Nailed it.
Absolutely won it. But yeah, so something I want to chat with you guys about is sort of the people that are leading each position and how we feel about them so far this season and how we feel about them the rest of the season. So here's a quick question for you guys. Do you want to do it on points overall or points per game?
Let's do points overall. I think that's I think points per game gives you more of an accurate view. Points per overall gives somewhat of an interesting perspective into like who's thriving that maybe shouldn't be.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll start the QB position. We'll definitely talk about the top 5, and then we'll pick a couple out of the sort of the next 5, and if there's anyone we want to talk about. So far, the top 5 at QB are Lamar Jackson by a landslide. He's 40 points ahead of second, which is Baker Mayfield. Joe Burrow, after his insane 2 weeks that he's had, he scored over 60 points over the last 2 weeks, which is absolutely incredible. You got Jalen Hurts, that I feel is having quite a sneaky season. I think a lot of people were sort of a bit down about Jalen Hurts, but actually he's only 9 points off being the QB2 on the season, and I think that could change in one game. And then Josh Allen rounds out the top 5, and they've all scored over 200 points. Do you guys feel that this is quite consensus? I think, you sort of look at 4 of them and go, I was easily taking them in the top sort of 7 or 8 picks at QB. I was sort of targeting them players, and I kind of feel like their values paid off. Baker is a bit of an anomaly, like, you know what I mean? I can't say that word. That came out completely wrong, didn't it? And Baker shouldn't be there.
Put the M in there, Paul. Put the M in. Come on.
Baker shouldn't be there. And it's a bit random that he is, but the other 4 feel kind of consensus. How do you guys, Lewis, how do you feel about this top 5?
Yeah, I agree with you that Baker feels like a little bit of an alarm and an anomaly. I wouldn't be surprised if he's replaced by Jaden Daniels before the end of the season. I mean, Baker's had an unbelievable run. If you look through the first 8 weeks, he had 1 performance outside the top 7 quarterbacks. Like, that is genuinely insane. That's a historic run. Obviously, the main thing with him is that the stretch for the rest of the season is actually quite easy. So there's a chance that he could actually keep it going. Like, I think it feels strange that he's there, but they're on bye this week, and then Giants, Panthers, Raiders, Chargers, Cowboys, Panthers is the rest of the fantasy season. Like, there's maybe 1 good defense in there, and aside from that, it's some of the worst defenses in the NFL. Aside from that, I think it feels relatively spot on to me. The only one that I am actually surprised about is Josh Allen. Even though obviously he would have gone as the QB1, it hasn't felt like a Josh Allen season. It hasn't felt anywhere that you have him. It hasn't felt like normally you're getting this overwhelming advantage at the quarterback position. And obviously you're not this season if he's currently the QB5, but when you look through, like, he had the first 3 games of the season, he had 2 quarterback 1 finishes, but genuinely he starts the season's mad. He goes QB1, QB28, QB1, QB28. And since then, the QB1 finishes he's had have been sort of mostly only 1 inside the top 5. So he is performing to a QB5 level, but it's not, you sort of expect like the top end finishes for Josh Allen. So, I mean, for him being drafted where he was drafted back at the 2nd, early 3rd, a QB5 overall finish is really disappointing.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you with Josh Allen, especially. He was someone that kind of you just expected to be that difference maker at quarterback, and the reason why you took him so early in your drafts. Lamar Jackson doesn't surprise me at all. Like he seemed like he is throwing the ball well, but I'm glad the Ravens sort of tried to turn him into this pocket passer for a little while. It's like, just let Lamar go out there and be Lamar. And you can see that while he's not quite at the levels of his, like, was it 5 years ago? Yeah, or 4 or 5 years ago, he had that unbreakable, like broke every dynasty or every fantasy record you can imagine. He's still like number one with a bullet. I think Jalen Hurts is a really interesting one. I don't understand why he was faded so much. It was like the whole thing was Jason Kelsey was like the master of the tush push. Is like, really, the smallest guy in that offensive line is going to be the guy that's causing the biggest impact. It's like, and it took him a few weeks to kind of get going, but Jalen Hurts is now sort of back to his old self. I think Saquon Barkley's really helped as well. People are now terrified of Saquon, which opens up avenues for Hurts. And Joe Burrow, he's the sneaky one for me. You talked about Jalen Hurts being a sneaky one. It's Joe Burrow that is a sneaky one. He's, whenever the Bengals get going, like they're really hard to stop. And it's always at the start of the season where Burrow struggles and the Bengals struggle. I don't know what's up with that. Is it a coaching thing or whatever? But that link he has with Jamar Chase is just something to try and get. And you can do that. Like even next year, people will probably still sleep on Joe Burrow, and you could probably stack them up in your teams and get that Burrow and Chase link up. And at this time of year, you're just loving it, right?
Yeah,
Paul,
I definitely stacked him in my home dynasty league, and waking up on Friday morning and seeing that I've got with 82 points on the board already. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, and you look at the other guy's team, and he's predicted like 123 points, and you're going, well, This is not going to be very difficult, is it? You know what I mean? But no, I completely agree with both of you. You know, I feel like Joe Burrow, yes, he probably is the bit of a sneaky one, but I was just mentioning Jalen Hurts because I know I've seen a lot on X where people are going, oh, Jalen Hurts, he's not quite paying the price and everything like this, where, you know what I mean? You drafted Jalen Hurts as maybe QB3, maybe QB2, something like that. And if you draft him as QB3 and he's now QB4 on the season, you're going, well, I paid great value for him, you know. I just want to quickly mention to round out the QB1 sort of thing: Jaden Daniels, Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Bro Nix, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, and Sam Darnold. That's up to QB12. Anyone you guys are quite shocked about in this? I know there's a couple.
All of them? Like, can we be serious here? Have you seen those names? Are you kidding me? Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, Bo Nix. What? Like, that's crazy to me, right?
Or Max, do you know what? Get lost back to the Dynasty show. I was still talking. You didn't interrupt me, man. Okay, let me finish my sentence. Okay? No, let's talk about what you want to talk about, Max. You just come sit back here, own the place. Yeah, come on then. You take control. Yeah. Hang on, let's move you up this. Right, this is Max's show now. Yeah?
So, welcome back to the Wildcard Rewind, everybody. Yeah, we're talking about quarterbacks 6 to 12. Lewis, any thoughts?
I'm really interested in Kyler Murray. I think he's the worst quarterback in the NFL. I'm stunned with any fantasy points.
Wow. Do you know what? Hannah, when are you coming home? I need you back. No, this all seriousness now, guys. There are a lot of names in here that we didn't expect. Bo Nix, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold. You know, Kirk Cousins, you can make an argument for. Brock Purdy was probably expected to be a low-end QB2. Kyler Murray, you know, he was taken around that sort of 11 mark. You know, I think he's having quite a steady season. Jaden Daniels for me is probably somebody that has really shocked everyone. I think people expected him to be good. I don't think they expected him to be this far up, but you know, it's quite crazy. How so I won't necessarily say how do we think this is going to pan out, but are there any in there that you'd be quite happy for the rest of the season as your QB1 in your team, fantasy-wise?
I have spent a lot of time. So I the answer, honestly, like obviously Jaden Daniels, Kyler, Brock Purdy, you're pretty happy with. I spent a lot of time talking about how high of a level Geno Smith is playing at this season, and it's going really under the radar. Because I mean, it's quite similar to Stafford early on, where like the team is just not playing to the same level as the quarterback, and especially with the O-line problems that Seattle have had with essentially like a revolving door at right tackle. The one that I'm really fascinated in, and on my weekly waiver shows on the YouTube channel, I find it really hard to not include Bo Nix every single week, because Bo Nix is putting up absolute numbers, and it's insane because he hasn't had a 300-yard passing game yet. He's had one over 250, and that's it. But it's the rushing, and it's the rushing touchdowns and big plays as well. Like, he's had so many finishes inside the top 12. That offense is playing really well. Like, I did talk about Audric Estime on the video that came out today, because that rushing offense is fantastic. Like, Sean Payton is absolutely scheming up a blinder, and Bo Nix, like, I'm happier with Bo Nix week to week than Patrick Mahomes at this point. I think Bo Nix has not a higher weekly ceiling, but like has more chance of getting to 20 points than Patrick Mahomes week to week at the minute. And like, I'm still not convinced about him as an NFL quarterback. It kind of comes back to that Daniel Jones thing of like, fantasy is different to the actual NFL. But man, he's having a hell of a rookie season. It feels like no one's watching.
Right.
He's so safe, right?
Yeah.
Lewis. Okay. For one, Denver would rob to win this weekend, thanks to the refs. 2, here's a fun question for you. How many times do you think Pat Mahomes has scored over 20 points this year? And how many times do you think Bo Nix has scored over 20 points this year? Without cheating and looking at the numbers in front of you.
I am pretty confident. No, I genuinely just closed Bo Nix's stats on my phone because I had it open. I think Patrick Mahomes is 1, and I think it was not Sunday but the week before, because I think people were talking about that being the first time he scored 20 points this season.
It was the first time since like week 13 last year as well. So it's not a new thing, right? It's definitely 1. I remember talking about it on the Dynasty show.
Yeah, I imagine Bo Nix is like 3 or 4.
3. He's done it 3 times. He did it week 4, week 5. No, that's Geno Smith's one. Week 5, week 6, and week 8. Yeah, 5, 6, and 8. Right. He's done it. He's done it, and he's been close. He's been close. He's close week 3 and stuff like that. But I completely get what you're saying. That actually, right now, Pat Mahomes is not really, he is doing something for you. He's currently QB 14, 16.7 points per game, 150 points on the season. So he's not far away from sort of Sam Darnold is 152 on the season, 16.9 points, and he's QB 12. So he's not far off being a back end QB 1. But I kind of agree with you. Bo Nix has got that sort of that rushing upside, which is something that every sort of podcast I listen to always talk about, this rushing upside and Konami code sort of QBs and how valuable they are. And, like we were saying about Daniel Jones, he was lucky to get as high as he did with fantasy this week because he had a rushing touchdown. Kyler Murray this week had a good week. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. Jaden Daniels, we could talk about him and how he does with his rushing. Yeah. Lamar Jackson, his rushing. Jalen Hurts, his rushing. Josh Allen gets his legs moving, and that's Bo Nix. Bo Nix does a lot more rushing than actually, you don't need that 300-yard passing game to finish that high. Pat Mahomes was always the guy that would go out and do that. He'd go out and throw 300 yards. He'd throw 3 touchdowns. And that's why he was always somebody that was there or thereabouts. But now he's not doing that. You're sort of seeing the reality of Pat Mahomes is probably not a high-end QB1, So
I've seen a lot of people talking about, and I don't think anyone's quite got it right about how Mahomes is playing. And I don't know if it's because people aren't watching like all the Chiefs games. It's very obvious the Chiefs are not trying. The Chiefs aren't trying to like bomb the ball down the field. The Chiefs want to spend as much time as possible on the field. So if there's an option to dink it and get a first down and move the chains up a little bit, or like bomb at 20 yards down the field, he's choosing the little dink pass every single time because they want to keep that defense as tired as possible. And then as soon as you need it at the end of the game, you can rip it down the field if you need to, but they keep that in their back pocket the whole time. And so that's why it doesn't translate to fantasy, is because it's little dink and duck, it's run. There's no big plays on purpose by design just to keep the ball on the field on the offensive side, tire out the defense, and then when it needs to knock out blow at the end, do it, and of course block a field goal if needed.
So you
I
heard
think
it here
it's a
first,
really-
guys. You heard it here first from a Kansas City Chiefs fan. Don't draft Pat Mahomes because he just plays short, shitty passes.
He's just too
and
good.
he tries to tire people out. So don't take him.
He
because
can't be
he's
constrained
he's
by
worthless in
fantasy
fantasy,
numbers.
you know? Lewis, what were you going to say, mate?
Well, I was going to say, I think this is a really interesting thing where it's the flip side, and this has been the running theme of the show, right? Is fantasy versus NFL, and the way in which players like Daniel Jones could be good for fantasy but bad in the real NFL. Same with Justin Fields. I think people's fantasy mindsets are kidding them into thinking that Patrick Mahomes isn't having a fantastic season. Like Patrick Mahomes is playing in the offense exactly the way he needs to play. He is the same player. He's not regressed. It's, as Mag says, it's very clearly a schematic choice. And we've seen, I remember it would have been 2022 season, the Rams played the Bills in the season opener. And Josh Allen is obviously known for, 40-yard bombs down the field or 30-yard runs, shrugging off defenders. And all he did all game was take the layup. Because obviously, if you pass for if every play goes for 4 yards, you score a touchdown, and you keep the opposition defense on the field for way longer than they want to do. And then he didn't do it the rest of the season. It was insane. People were like, that's what he needs to do for the Bills to finally win a Super Bowl. And then that was the one time he did it. That's what Mahomes and the Chiefs are doing, and it's obviously by design. Like, we're so fantasy pilled that we're like, Patrick Mahomes is having a rubbish season because he's only the QB 14. He's absolutely not. Like, not everything is about fantasy football, unfortunately. So it's very easy to kid yourself if you just follow box scores and just follow fantasy that he's not playing well. When, as someone who watches every single minute of every single game says, this is what they're trying to do.
Tell that to my team that are losing week in, week out because Pat Mahomes is not scoring me enough points. They'll tell you that Pat Mahomes is having a shit season, okay? And the Chiefs just can kiss my ass. Right, guys, so I realise we spent loads talking about this, so we're not going to get through all the positions. So I think we'll do another position and then we'll chat the next two next week. Do you fancy that? So we'll get on to running backs, and the top 5 are Derrick Henry, who has 205 points, Saquon Barkley 164, Alvin Kamara 155, Bijan 149, and Jahmyr Gibbs 140. That seems pretty chalky. I'm not going to lie. They're 5 that you could sort of put there and go, you know what, I think they'll be top 5. So we won't really talk about them too much. We'll talk about 6 to 12. You've got Chuba Hubbard at 6 with 132, Kyron Williams 129, Joe Mixon 129, James Cook 129, James Conner 126, and David Montgomery 120, and J.K. Dobbins filling out the top 12 with 114. So to me, I think there's a couple that stand out here. The biggest one that stands out for me is Chuba Hubbard at running back 6 on the season. How is Chuba Hubbard running back 6 on the season, guys? How do we feel about that?
It kind of goes against all conventional logic, right? Like, we're told that you want to start running backs on good teams because there's higher touchdown upside, and also because obviously they're going to be running out the clock at the end of the game, so there's more opportunity for them to see the ball. Chuba Hubbard has just been playing absolutely lights out. Like, he's been getting a fair amount of targets and a fair amount of receptions. He only has 2 games with under 2 and has four games with less than 4 receptions, which, considering he's played 10, is pretty good. So more than half his games, he has 4 or more receptions, multiple 100-yard weeks. It's a really strange thing for him because it seems like it's a very old-fashioned sort of, like, just being efficient on the ground, which is not the way that we normally tend to see running back success in the NFL. It's normally, in fantasy circles, it's normally very much through the air. But it just seems like, the Panthers' offensive line is actually quite good. I think people like to think it's not because they assume that everything about a bad team must be bad. But their offensive line is actually not too bad. And running behind that with terrible quarterbacks, like, you tend to lean on the ground game a little bit more. I think he's just been playing very, very well. And like, there were a couple of backs around there that when you were talking through, I was surprised to not not to not hear, but to hear that they're behind Chuba Hubbard, like A-Chan feels like he's been absolutely explosive, but then he's missed a little bit of time, and also Tua was hurt. Kyron Williams has been fantastic, but obviously the Rams offense stank at the beginning of the season. Joe Mixon, points per game, is one of the highest backs in the NFL, but he missed 3 games. So, like, it is a little bit misleading because I think you've probably felt happier with Kyron, Achan, or Mixon than you have with Chuba Hubbard. But obviously, he's just been very consistent. As even though he's the RB6, I'd call him a low-end RB1 because that's probably more where he's finished week on week.
Yeah.
But just great.
I was also about to mention that Kyron Williams hasn't played yet this week, so considering he's 3 points behind, you'd say that he's going to be above him. And then you look at like other players, like Chuba Hubbard's going to be on bye this week, so his points tally is going to stay the same. Where the others who are like Kyron Williams, Joe Mixon, James Cook, who are all within 3 points of him, are probably all going to take over him. So I think you're absolutely spot on where he is a low end RB1. I think by the end of next week, you'd probably see him around that 12 mark. And that's probably feels like a better sort of landing spot for him and what he's done this season. But I just want to quickly mention, and I know, Mags, I'm going to bring him up with you because I know you absolutely love this guy and have so much exposure to this guy. And that is J.K. Dobbins, the comeback king, Let's be honest. Talk to me about J.K. Dobbins. How much are you loving him this season?
It's so happy to see. Right? This was a guy that has been written off twice, probably, in his young career already. Like with the second time he got that ACL injury, and then he got the Achilles. That was meant to be the final nail in the coffin, and then he went across to that backfield that, if you remember preseason, he slid in a lot of drafts because people were worried about Kimani Vidal or Gus Edwards or whoever else was floating about. And then it just so happened that J.K. Dobbins looks like the J.K. Dobbins of old, which is great. And the best thing about it is he's been consistent. Like, it's not been a time where he's come in and he's missed a couple of games here and there. He's come in, he's been consistent. He's running the offense really, really well. He's not, lighting the world on fire like up at RB1, RB2, but I think this time next year, or not this time next year, whenever we're doing our drafts next year, J.K. Dobbins is going to be a guy that people are going to be taking a lot earlier than you've seen already. And I had a sort of broader point to kind of make. You kind of brushed over the top 5 backs. I don't know if you noticed or not, but I think it's because the circles that we play in. Have you noticed the sort of, this is not a word, but I'm going to say it anyway, hopefully you know what it means, the dynastification of drafts in redraft a lot? So you had people fading Saquon and Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara. My goodness, how faded was he in drafts this year? Because people tend to have a dynasty hat on as that game grows, especially in the UK. These guys are coming in every year and smashing every single year. So if there's any advice, like this time when you're doing the draft next year, Derrick Henry guarantees going to slide again. Saquon going to slide. It's going to happen again and again. It happens every single year. And yet we see these guys at the top every single year. So good on the old guys there. They rule.
Oh, mate, Derrick Henry is just defying every inch of knowledge everyone's ever had about running backs and everything like this, and he's just gone, I'm just going to completely make sure that I prove you all wrong. But we'll do wide receivers and tight ends next week, guys. We'll just quickly run through what we learned this week. Lewis, should we come to you first? What did you learn this week? What's going to help you be a better fantasy player moving forward?
My learning from this week is that just because something's consensus doesn't mean that it's right. A lot of the time in fantasy circles, we get in a bit of a tiz about these under the radar players that are going to absolutely smash each week, and we just talk ourselves into why they're going to be the guys. And actually this week it was really interesting because a lot of those players were actually outperformed by players on their own team. So some of the top scoring players on the week were in the same situation. So people, Mason Tipton, Murph spoke a lot about last week. And the theory was right that the Saints have this specified deep threat role that can explode for 2 touchdowns. the player was wrong. It was MVS, not Mason Tipton. The same with, a lot of people were talking about Josh Downs. A lot of people were talking about Devontae Adams. Like, I think it's very easy. I think it's one of the reasons why it's very important to do your own rankings and then compare them to other people's, is because it's very easy to, or not just in your own rankings, but your own research. It's very easy to sort of get caught up in this. Well, the fantasy community is very excited about this player, so I should be very excited about this player. And more often than not, the fantasy community is wrong about these things.
Yeah, but as we always say, the process, trust the process. So Murph's process was right, and there was going to be somebody who just got the player wrong, and I completely agree with you, because if you look on Sleeper, it tells you all of these players that have got arrows up, and it's like, oh, everyone should be targeting these players. Mason Tipton being one of them. Arrows up, everyone's going, oh, Mason Tipton, go and get him, which, again, the process is right, just they got the wrong player. But how nice was it to see MVS catching these really long touchdowns, and it was just like, where's he gone? And then you
could have ended the sentence at catching, by the way. Nice to see MVS catching. Like, that's quite a rarity from what I've seen last season.
Yeah. I suppose as a Chiefs fan, you did get to witness it, but he did. We're not talking about the Super Bowl. Nice of you to bring it up, though, Mags. Mags, what did you learn this week apart from the Chiefs get the refs to tell them when people are about to tackle them to help?
No, they didn't. They did. I learned that we need to push on that more and make sure that gets slotted in for next week, because it is an absolute travesty that
all hail the
God's representative on earth, Patrick Mahomes. It's not being worn by the refs. Yeah. It's kind of more of a yearly thing, because obviously I've not been on every week. If I'm in doubt this year, I'm just starting a running back. Like, it's kind of leaning on what you said there, Lewis. Like, these guys that slot in, like, are they going to do anything? It's just like, if I'm in any way in doubt in redraft and DFS, like, I'm just putting a running back in that flex spot, and that just seems this season in particular to be so much safer. And it's kind of like a bit of a throwback year. I feel like we were kind of moving away from that a little bit, where wide receivers seem to be like the new sort of trend, but running back seems like it's coming back with a force. So I'm just hoovering up as many running backs as I can get in my rosters, and eventually one of them is going to be useful.
Oh, bring back what's the word? Bring back the need for running backs. I remember drafting and all you saw in the first round was like running back. And I'm going back like David Johnson at the Cardinals and all of this. It was them, it was CMC, Derrick Henry, all of these boys, bam, bam, Ezekiel Elliott. And you were taking all of these are the first people off the board in your drafts now. You know what I mean? And now it's like people are, apart from CMC, nobody wanted a running back in the first two rounds. They were like, nope, don't want him. And let's make them relevant again. Let's do it. I am all for that. But yeah, let's move on to our main feature. Max, you would have heard this, but you never took part in anything like this. But this is our regular feature where we have a stud, scare, and wild card. This week, I've completely lost where I was. Yes, so this is a contest that we're doing, and the forfeit is for the loser has to be a monologue of the other two hosts choosing, and we really want Hannah to give a monologue about something of mine Lewis is choosing. So Mags, if you could maybe make some dodgy calls, that would be awesome. We'd love that. So let's get into our fantasy stud of the week. This is where we talk about an under the radar player who we think is going to smash this coming week. And to be honest, Lewis, I don't think I did so well in this. Unfortunately. So, yeah. So Lewis, you picked Tyrone Tracy, who had himself 103 yards rushing and a touchdown, finishes the RB13. Hannah / Murph said Brock Purdy, who finished the week as QB5, and I said Jordan Addison, and Sam Darnold and the Vikings decided to absolutely shit the bed and play one of the worst teams that have been this season, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and looked like Sam Darnold was seeing bloody ghosts out there. He couldn't do anything, he couldn't move anything, and didn't even score a touchdown. I hate you, Sam Darnold. You're going back in the shit pot. So, unfortunately, as much as I'd love to give Hannah a point there, I'm going to have to give myself a point there. Let's talk about.
Can I tell you a story about that? I was listening to that show driving in my car, and whenever you said Jordan Addison, I was in my car on my own, and I audibly went, "Terrible pick." I said that.
Why?
I was just like, "That's a terrible pick." It's like you're going to lose, and I can't wait to come on here and talk about it. And here we are.
But mate, the Jags have just been leaking points. And you just be
but
like,
Jordan Addison's been crap.
Has he?
Yeah, Jordan Addison's not been playing well at all.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, Tyron Tracy, if we want to, maybe Tyron Tracy did lose the game for the Giants. Do you want to try and sway anything there, Paul? Do you want to try and worm your way into a point there? Because he was awesome.
No. I'm having the point. There's no argument about it. You know, I'm just saying. I just went for Jordan Anderson against the Jags, who were easy to score past, but no. Sam Darnold.
I went with Sam Darnold for DFS this week, and I still ended up doing okay, thankfully, because I just put as many running backs in as possible, like we talked about. But yeah, disappointing.
Yeah, Sam Darnold was shit. But yeah, let's talk about this week. Lewis, let's start with you. Who have you gone for this week?
Yeah, so I've gone with someone who had one reception this last week, but it was a 35-yard touchdown. I've gone with Mike Williams, obviously newly traded to the Steelers. They play the Ravens this week, which is pretty exciting. I was just looking up. The Ravens have allowed an 100-yard receiver 3 of the last 4 weeks. The 1 week that they didn't, the leading receiver on the other team had 99 yards. So the Ravens secondary is really easy to carve up. I think the Steelers are going to be able to do that. I think Mike Williams pairs so well with Russell Wilson. Like, I've seen people saying, if you were going to pick 2 wide receivers in the league to be under that moon ball from Russ, there's a chance it would be George Pickens and Mike Williams. DK Metcalf maybe being the other one who was on the team that, no, he didn't just leave, but he played with him when he first came into the league. And I think he's only going to get more work on this team. I didn't want to go for George Pickens. He was the wide receiver 4 this week and is ascending. So I think Mike Williams, especially as a bit of a spot start, he's actually only 20% rostered on Sleeper. A lot of people dropped him when he was not doing anything on the Jets. So I think you can plug him in and play him. He's going to be relatively cheap, and I think he has a chance to come down with a touchdown.
I love that pick. I really like that pick, and it was a great touchdown catch as well. Not as good as George Pickens, but it was a good touchdown catch, you know.
No.
Mags, who have you gone for? This is a brave one.
Yeah, I've gone for just after their bye week. The Bears, not in crisis, but they're being very Bearsy, right? They're not really performing as well as you think. So since the bye week, Rome Odunze, rookie sensation at the Bears, has seen at least 5 targets every single week. I think he's sort of building himself up into that offense a little bit. And I think they might because they're playing the Green Bay Packers, who just draw everyone into an all-out war. I think this might be Rome's sort of breakout week. I really believe in the talent. Thought he's a brilliant prospect coming out. I thought whenever Chicago got him, I couldn't wait to see him and Caleb, link up properly. And I think this kind of game, big rivalry, like these kind of games, Lewis, you mentioned it a few weeks ago. These are the kind of games you need to go ahead and target, like these revenge games, these rivalry games. I just think it's going to be a big scoreline run up, and Rome Odunze is going to have his breakout game here, and he's wide receiver 58, I think, on the season. So I think that's a good enough pick for this, right?
I like it a lot.
Thank you.
I like it. I think it's. I think the process is right. I think it's quite a brave pick. I don't think he's really done much to show that he could be a stud yet, but who knows? Knowing you, Mags,
apart from one of the best college wide receiver seasons of all time.
Yeah, hasn't done it in the NFL though, has he?
Yes,
hasn't done anything in the NFL though, has he? Weirdly, he's playing NFL football and not college football. but we'll see how that goes. I've gone for Ramondre Stevenson.
Terrible pick.
Absolutely awful pick. I think the Patriots running back room is garbage, and all I want to do is I want to win this tournament, because if I get the most points, I win. Right? That's how we play.
It's like in The Simpsons. Like, the key to cheating is to lower your score.
I watched a video the other day, and he said this golf's easy. He scored 84 points in the first 9 holes.
Easy.
But yeah, so I gone for Ramondre Stevenson. I think they play the Rams next week, don't they? And I think the Rams are going to score plenty of points past them, and I think they'll be trying to get themselves back into it. And I think he's probably one of the stronger weapons in this team, and they may be relying on him to score them plenty of points. So I've gone for Ramondre Stevenson. With that, we will move on to our fantasy scare of the week. This is where we talk about a hyped up player who we think could be disappointing for the week to come. Lewis, we smashed this.
We did.
Smashed this week. You went for Jaden Daniels, who finished the week as QB 22. Yep. I was criticized for going for Baker Mayfield. And was mocked by Murph himself for saying he's QB2 on the season, and he finished as a QB 21. And Murph went for my guy Marvin Harrison Jr., who scored himself a touchdown yesterday and finished as the wide receiver 13. So, Hannah, I'm really sorry. Murph has let you down on this occasion, and Marvin Harrison Jr. has stepped up for me. Let's go, my boy. And yes, so unfortunately, Murph, you cost Hannah a point there. Right, guys, let's get into this week's fantasy scare. Mags, we're going to go to you first. Who is your fantasy scare for week 11?
So I'm thinking here, WWHD, what would Hannah do? I'm like listening over the show. She likes to do this a lot. So I've gone with a Bengals player, because for her, it's like a win-win. Like, either the Bengals player goes off and she's happy that the Bengals player does well, or if they don't, then she doesn't end up getting a point on the show. So I've ended up going for wide receiver 1 overall, Jamar Chase, to be the bust of the week, just because what is Jamar Chase if not a boom bust player? And we've just seen the biggest of all booms. And if Jamar Chase is true to form, next week will be not a bust, but it'll be a lot lower than what it was this week. He tends to do that, like really high scores and then somewhere in like the teens or something like that right after. So give me Jamar Chase on there, and then it's a win-win for Hannah. Either she sees Jamar Chase have a really, really good game, or she avoids the point.
I love that, and I can already see Hannah smiling about when she's listening to that, about your theory there, because Hannah does exactly that. She will pick Jamar Chase, as she has done this season. She'll pick Jamar Chase because it's win-win. If Jamar Chase goes off, Bengals probably win. If Jamar Chase doesn't go off, she doesn't get a point. Love it. Lewis, who's your pick?
Well, I've gone with Aaron Jones. And part of this is because the Vikings offense is struggling. Part of this is because I don't think people are paying enough attention to how great the Titans defense is playing. Obviously, they got blown out by the Lions a few weeks ago. But when you look back I had a little look into the rushing yardage of the lead back against the Titans through the last 6 weeks. And it is 55 yards, 16 yards, 127 yards, which is the Lions game, 41 yards, 51 yards, 31 yards. So they've allowed more than 55 yards to a running back once in the last 6 weeks. The Titans D-line is playing absolute lights out. Like, the defense as a whole is playing lights out. People just aren't paying attention because the offense is so bad. So they're still losing games. I'm worried with Aaron Jones against this run defense. The Titans have an ability to make everyone play down to their level. Whereas when you talk about the Packers, they have this ability to make every single offense they play absolute lights out and make every game like a complete gun show. the Titans are the opposite. They have the ability to just suck the life out of every single game. And with the Vikings offense stalling this week against the Jags, I'd be worried for Aaron Jones going into this one.
I love it. I absolutely love it. But I have gone for Jared Goff. Now, Jared Goff he's having an okay season in all. I don't think he's really setting the world alight. And he's just coming off a game where he had 5 interceptions. 5, which is absolutely insane. I thought the Bills, I thought the Bills game was crazy for turnovers. And I was like, oh, that's loads. And I had a look, and the Bills game had 5 interceptions in it between both teams, 3 and a 2. The fact that Jared Goff threw 5, great. So I've gone for him as my fantasy scare this week, and I'm putting it down to the Jacksonville Jaguars are actually doing better than we think. And that's what they did to Sam Darnold this week. He didn't shit the bed. The Jags stopped him from doing anything. So come on, Jacksonville. Let's do it again. You'll lose the game because you can't see out anything. But I think they keep him quiet. You watch, he'll be QB1 on the week now, and we'll all go to shit. But hey, I wasn't allowed who I wanted originally, but we won't talk about that. So guys, we'll move on to the wild card of the week. This is where we choose something absolutely bonkers. The crazier, the better. Let's have a look at last week's one. Lewis, you said the Jets beat the Cardinals. You were very wrong there because the Jets suck. And you said by more than a touchdown. They didn't actually score a touchdown, mate, if that helps.
You don't need to win by a touchdown, to be fair. But
yeah, but they didn't even score a touchdown, so they scored 6 points. Brilliant.
It's pretty bad. And then I made my classic mistake that I make every other week of picking a Monday Night Football player.
I see that, yeah.
Instead, Demarcus Robinson gets another touchdown versus the Dolphins, but they're going to play till Monday night. Which I actually, I don't know where it was when you were talking about something. I actually checked. Oh, it was Mags when you said Jamar Chase was playing and I couldn't see the Bengals. And I thought maybe that was the Monday night game. And I wasn't going to say anything so we could give you a point, but it was the Sunday night game, wasn't it? But yeah, Lewis, you got both wrong there. I said the Panthers would beat the Giants, which was very correct. And I also said Kyle Pitts was finished as tight end 13, which is correct because he finished as exactly tight end 13. Nobody picked up on that. I said he would finish as tight end 3, and he didn't even finish as tight end 13. I thought I'd try, but I'm not a cheater.
3 is an oddly specific number to aim for as well.
Yeah, it would be wicked if I did that, wouldn't it? Hannah/Murph. Right, I've got to break all this down. He said Brock Purdy finishes a QB 4 or better and as the NFC West ends with 3 teams on 5 wins, but the Cardinals will have 5 losses, which he got wrong because the Cardinals won. The Rams would win. He got wrong because they play on Monday night. And only the 49ers game will achieve the over, while the Rams under, we don't know because they haven't played. Cardinals would hit the under of 45.5. He was right. Brock Purdy was QB5, but I'll let him off for 1 point. But ultimately, he's done pretty well here. And Lewis, you got it all wrong, so you're having a point here, mate. Unfortunately,
yeah.
Sorry to tell you.
I agree with you. I struggle to even understand the predictions that Murph made.
Yeah, he made a lot. He made a lot of predictions.
He did.
He made a lot of predictions. He was like, he went full Murph on us. Just need a win and a name. That's all we needed. But I love it. I love it. He did pretty well there. The only thing he really got wrong was the Cardinals won and they didn't lose. I'm just reminding you all of that. The Cardinals won. 6-4 Cardinals won.
Can we also mention as well, Paul? Did we not say in the show over 2 years ago when he was still at the Green Bay Packers that Aaron Rodgers was a washed piece of shit? And look at him now. Like still just stinking up everywhere he goes. Like he's so bad.
Mate, I think I see. Was it Tom Strachan put up a post earlier where he was like everyone's expecting Aaron Rodgers to be something, but actually he's just shit, and he's not got what he used to have. You know, even the commentators at one point when he threw a ball to Devontae Adams and Devontae Adams like cut back too early or something, and they were like, "Oh, they haven't got this telepathic connection that they had at Green Bay and stuff like this." And I'm going, "No, it's because Aaron Rodgers is shit."
That was happening at Green Bay. Do you remember we always used to say that all the commentators were like, "Oh, the wide receivers are just off." Like, it's like he's throwing it to the wrong. He's clearly throwing it to the wrong place. Like, why is no one calling him out?
And poor old Robert Saleh, they blame him for it.
He's laughing all the way to the bank, though. Like he's on the beach, fanning himself with Jets money. Like
he's on the beach. He's not as good as Andy Reid in a thong, but he's on the beach.
No,
somewhere living his best life. But ultimately, they're all blaming everyone else, but nobody's actually going to sit back and go, "Do you know what? Maybe our QB is shit."
Yeah,
because it's Aaron Rodgers, and they think he's as good as Tom Brady. He's not. Newsflash, he's shit. But yes, let's talk about our wild cards this week. Who should we go to first? I'll go first. I'll tell you what, I'll go first. So I've said that the Colts will beat the Jets. More misery for Rodgers. You know what I mean? Keeping to the theme there. And I'm saying that Jonathan Taylor has over 100 scrimmage yards and a touchdown in this game. So I'm going all in on the Colts. The Colts get the win. Jonathan Taylor, 100 yards and a touchdown. Who wants to go next?
I'll give it a go. And then I'll...
Lewis, let's go to you next. Let's go to you next.
So I'm going to quickly do scores on the doors, because what has happened is we've given everyone 1 point each, and we've made this show irrelevant. It's still the same as it was before. It was 8, 10, and 11. Now it's 9, 11, and 12. It's still the same scores. I have gone with the Steelers beat the Ravens. I obviously hinted at this earlier when I was talking about the Ravens' susceptibility to deep threat wide receivers. I think their weaknesses on defense match up really well with the Steelers' strengths. And because we have Mags on the show, I have said that the Atlanta Falcons wide receiver, Drake London, who he hates, is going to be outside the top 20 wide receivers. Now, there was some process to this. They're playing the Broncos, who have the best man corner in the NFL. And who else is he going to line up against than Drake London? And the Falcons offense is struggling, but this is a Mags-themed special.
Love that. That's no points coming your way for that.
I love this because Drake London has had an unbelievable season. He is currently wide receiver 4 on the year. Okay, this is the guy that Mag said was going to be not going to be a wide receiver 1, and he was shit.
Wide receiver 4? No way.
Wide receiver 4. Yep, wide receiver 4. And so far he has won 2 games where he didn't score double digits points. Okay, the first one being week 1. Now the other one was when Mags went on the DFS show and went, "I'm starting Drake London this week."
Yeah,
and Drake London, the biggest shithouser on the planet, went, "You know what? Sod you, hot seat guy. I'm going to do nothing." I went and did nothing, and he's shitting on you from everywhere, shape, and form. And
if you listen to the show, you'll know that was a tactical decision. That I said I will actively pay money for him to be shit. Like I am happy to fund that in order to be right. So actually, I was just paying for my takes to be right, Paul. It's like a form of cheating, I think.
It's like what Hannah does with the Bengals players. Except you are actively paying money for it.
Yeah. I'll pay money, and if you hit, I make money. If you don't, oh well. But also, just a quick update. Dalton Kincaid is currently tight end 12 on the season. You know, the one that you said was going to finish as a tight end 1 in Dynasty.
I honestly cannot believe how little they're throwing like the ball. I expect because there was something like 3,000 vacated air yards there, I expected them to fill some of them, but unfortunately, they've just decided not to. Like they've decided,
they've just decided that Matt Collins was the answer.
Yeah, because he doesn't wear shoes.
Yeah.
that's the main reason.
I love it. I love it. What's even better is my brothers actually message me and go, "I hope Drake London finishes higher, Dalton Kincaid finishes low," just because I want to hear you take the piss out of Mags. That's what my brothers say to me on a weekly basis.
See, I will say he's wide receiver 4, but it's not currently updated for this week's performances. He will drop down, I believe. So that's why I was surprised at the wide receiver 4. Just
Technicalities. Mags, give us your wild card of the week then. Dalton Kincaid finishes the tight end 1.
I did think about that, but
Drake London is the tight end 50, yeah?
I did think about Kincaid being tight end 1. Then I remembered the team that he's playing, which is the almighty Chiefs, who will stifle even an absolute god like Dalton Kincaid, unfortunately for him.
Isn't he injured as well?
Probably, I don't know. I've gone for a bit of an unusual one. I think coming up next week, there will be more away victories than home victories in the NFL, which is a bit.
Show sheet next week, Lewis.
Yeah. So that's what I've gone for, just a little bit different. And then I did mention earlier the Chiefs' new offense and the way that they want to keep teams on the field, and Patrick Mahomes dinking and dunking. Not against the Buffalo Bills. It's personal against the Buffalo Bills, which is why Patrick Mahomes will be quarterback 1 on the week next week.
Spicy.
Yeah.
What's that? What's that?
That take is a certified inferno.
Yes, absolutely. Quarterback 1. He's going to put all the things aside. Him and Josh Allen are going to put the gloves on again, and they're going to fight. And I can't wait.
Oh, do you know what? I hope so. I really, really hope so, because I love to watch it. Where it's one of them games where whoever's got the ball last is the team that are potentially going to win it. And I love them kind of games. Exciting. And do you know what? What time do they kick off as well?
So like 9:25. I think it's a later.
Oh, God, I'm in work on Monday, so I don't get to work.
Hopefully the refs bring out the double-sided coin for the Chiefs again, so we get the ball.
and the ref tells you every time
anyone's close. Yeah,
Holmes is going to get hit or something like that. You know,
absolutely.
But yeah, with that brings us to the end of our show. Mags, you are joining us again next week.
Yep.
Yes, can't wait. We will let you tell everyone where they can find you next week then.
Yep.
And that brings us to the end. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on X at Wildcard Rewind, or head on over to our YouTube channel, search for @Fantasy Wildcard, and make sure you give us a like, a subscribe, all of that, 5-star reviews, all of that, and us 3 will see you next week.